How's everyone doing today? Thank you for joining us. Thank you for Palanta for having me, especially you, Jakir. I really appreciate you putting this together. Thank you. My name is Jose Dominguez. I actually just got promoted to assistant commissioner. Mulligan, who's going to try to join us later, he's the new deputy citywide chief. He's actually on another Zoom meeting presenting on it for another company. But thanks everyone for joining today. I really appreciate it. I know it's late at night and it's cold out, so I'm anticipating we're going to have a lot of people in-house today and not out there enjoying the weather. So, all right, Jakira. So today we're going to go over the 10-point inspection and the process of issuing violations and what does a 10-point inspection consist of, okay? So complaints, as you know, you can file a complaint from 311 via calling 311. They have a 311 mobile app that you can also make a complaint. You can also go on the website on 311.nyc.gov and also file a complaint that way. You're going to get a 311 reference number. You need to keep that number, write it down, because that's the number you're going to be tracking the process with, okay? So that 311 reference number they give you is an important number for you to have and say. You also have an option of going through housing court and requesting a court inspection through housing court. When you go through housing court, you won't get a 311 reference number. You're going to get an HPD complaint number. And you could also use that complaint number to go to our website also to see the status of that complaint. Okay. Next slide, please. So when you call 311, we have a system in place that we call a callback. So what that does is it calls the owner on a property registration, and alerts them that we received a complaint for the property, and we're in the process of inspecting and verifying that complaint. We also do a tenant callback, because a lot of times, as you know, a lot of the complaints we get are for heat, right? So if you make a complaint for heat, and we call the owner, let him know we got a complaint for heat, of course he's going to turn it on, right? So then we do that tenant callback. It's also very important for you to take that call on tenant callback. It's going to be a computer-based program letting you know that we've got your complaint and we're in the process of going out and inspecting it. Then it's going to ask you a question, basically, has the condition been corrected, right? So if the condition's been corrected, you're going to press either 1 or 2. If it's not been corrected, you're going to press, the proper code for that. If it hasn't been corrected, we're going to send an HPD inspector out to go out and inspect. If the HPD inspector sees, enters the unit, he's going to do his 10-point inspection. We're going to look at a different slide. And he's also going to address all the problems associated with that complaint. So when you're going to make a complaint to 311, you should take an opportunity to sit down and see what's going on in your apartment. Check your smoke alarm, check your carbon. Check for peeling paint, check for broken windows, for doors, and make these complaints all at once. We can go out and inspect everything at once as well. So once we go out and look at the apartment, the inspector will do his inspection and either issue a violation, right? Or close the problem, indicating that it is not warranted, meaning that the problem that you're complaining about doesn't warrant an HPD housing maintenance violation, right? So either they're going to close the problem or issue a violation. If we issue a violation, what's going to populate once the supervisor approves that inspection result, a notice of violation gets mailed out to the managing agent on record, to the last managing agent on record. Depending on the violation, we have 3 types of violation. We have an A class, B class, and C class. So we have to give the owner a certain amount of time to correct those conditions. Once he certifies the condition as corrected, he has to send us back a document. It's called a notice of violation certification. He signs and he puts some information on that document indicating he corrected the condition, who corrected the condition, and when it was corrected. Once the owner certifies the violation as corrected, the system also generates a letter to the tenant that made the complaint. It's very important for you to look at the mail. And that letter is basically giving you, the tenant, an opportunity to challenge that certification, saying, wait a minute, this owner did not repair that. And you can challenge that certification either by calling a number provided on the form or emailing us. We have an email specific for each borough. So you would email the borough indicating that the condition wasn't corrected. Somebody from the office will call you to schedule an inspection to go out and look at those conditions. If we go out and inspect and we see the owner did correct the condition, we're going to dismiss the violation. If we go out and see that the conditions weren't corrected, we're going to not comply the condition. And if it's a A or B class violation, the tenant will have to take legal action in housing court. Now, the C class violations, some of them come with ERs. ER is emergency repair order, right? So if a C class violation, once the inspector finds that condition not correct and the supervisors approve it, that C class violation that has an ER attached, an emergency order attached, is going to go to our emergency repair program. Okay, next slide, please. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit as well. So regardless of what complaints you make, our inspectors are required to what we call the 10-point inspection. So when they get to the property, the first thing they're going to do is check the building's facade to make sure that everything's in place. They're also going to check the public area in the line of travel to your apartment. And they're also going to conduct the following 10-point inspection, which is a smoke detector. They want to make sure the smoke is working properly. They want to make sure it's installed in the proper location. They're also going to check for carbon monoxide detector. They're also going to check, make sure it's working properly and installed in the proper location. They're going to check for a fire safety notice. And that fire safety notice is a sticker that the owners are required to put behind the entrance door to your apartment. And there's two types. There's going to be, one is going to be a fireproof building, indicating that the building is fireproof, and the other sticker will indicate that it's non-fireproof. For the fire safety notice posting, HPD doesn't issue a violation, but it collects that information and sends it over to FDNY, okay? And then the FDNY has a process what they go through for when the sticker isn't posted, okay? We also check for double cylinder locks. Double cylinder locks are basically on the right-hand side. You see that picture there. It's a lock that requires a key to get in and a key to get out. Those are illegal, and it's a fire hazard, it's a fire trap. We also check for illegal bars and gates at egress window. So what's an egress window? An egress window is a window leading to the fire escape. Those windows cannot have any type of locks on it, okay? We also check for mold on every inspection, and we'll issue the proper violation. We check for mice and roaches. Self-closing doors is one that we always check. So basically, either when the inspector enters the unit, he's gonna open the door to the fullest to make sure it closes and latches all the way. Or maybe when he's exiting, he'll check that door to make sure it's closing, opening and closing properly. It needs to close shut completely and also needs to latch. The latch needs to be working, needs to close completely. Window guards for children under 11 is also something we look for. And if a child under 6 resides in the apartment, we will either do a test plan or a lead test, okay? So the difference between a test plan and a lead sketch is based on the information we receive from 311. So if you make that 311 complaint and you let the 311 operator know that you have a child under 6 residing, that complaint is going to go over to our lead unit, and the lead unit will go answer all your problems and also conduct lead testing if they find peeling paint in your apartment. Now, if you forget to tell the 311 operator that a child in 6 resides in your apartment, that's going to get routed through our borough office. That is not a lead inspector, but the borough office inspector will still ask you if there's a child in the 6 residing in the apartment. Reside means any child spending 10 hours or less a week in that apartment. If you say yes, that inspector would do a test plan looking for peeling paint, and then he'll refer your complaint over to the lead unit for they can come out and do the proper testing with an XRF machine to make sure there's no lead in that apartment, okay? Next screen, please, Shakira. Heat and hot water, as most of you know, Each season starts October 1st and it goes through May 31st, from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. If the outside temperature falls below 55 degrees, it must be 68 or above inside the apartment. Nighttime between 10 p.m. and 6 p.m., it must be 62 degrees in your apartment, regardless of the outside temperature. Okay, and as always, hot water is required 24 hours a day at 120 degrees. Give me 1 second. Let me just pull my. So when we issue a violation for heat or hot water, we also post the building, as you can see in the picture in the middle, the notice of violation. We seek civil penalties for every most heat violations we issued. And then we also have an inspection fee for multiple inspections resulting in a violation. So in other words, if tenants make multiple complaints to in a building about no heat or hot water, and we go out and issue a violation multiple times, on the third visit, we'll start issuing an inspection fee. All right, so that gets charged by the Department of Finance. Next screen, please. Violation is a citation issue for failure to comply with the law. Violations are responsibility of the property owner of the building. We issue violations. The time the owner is given to correct it depends on the violation. I spoke about Class A, Class B, and Class C. All right. And as always, we just updated our website about maybe a little less than a year ago. That's the new website we have now, right where you have the address in the middle that you put your property address, and you'll be able to navigate all the violations on that building, but also you can narrow it down by unit as well. Okay. Next slide, please. So this is the emergency repair process, which is a good tool for HPD and also a good tool for tenants as well. So when we issue a Class C violation, again, remember, not every Class C violation issued has an ER attached to it. Exceptions to emergency, like we don't do emergency repair for pests, meaning if it is a C-class violation, but there's no ER. Double cylinder locks as well. ERP wouldn't go out and remove that lock. So if we issue a C-class violation for, let's say, a cascading water leak or a ceiling that's about to collapse and the owner doesn't repair it, and we go out and verify it wasn't repaired, we again attempt to contact the managing agent to see where he's at with that compliance of the violation. We also refer that to ERP, and ERP will send out a CPM, which is a construction project manager, to review the work and scope it. A scope consists of what do we need to correct this condition. So they'll take measurements, they'll look at the plumbing, they'll look at any wood they need, they'll look at all the materials they need to fix this condition. They're going to take that information and put it in our computer system for a contractor to bid on it, meaning the contractor would say, hey, I'll fix that ceiling for you. And these are contractors that they have to give us some documents, and these are contractors that we vet. And if the owner still hasn't made the condition, we will route that contractor out, working with the tenant to get the condition corrected. We're also going to send CPMs out and other staff out to make sure the condition was corrected correctly prior to us paying that contractor. All of the bills, any fees that are associated with fixing the repair is going to get billed to the Department of Finance. Okay, so and any bills that get any fees, charges, we send that to the Department of Finance, and they're going to put that on their bill that they get every 3 months. Okay. Next slide, please. This is how can an owner remove a open HPD violation. So every violation that we issue has a certification date. So if the owner certifies the condition as corrected, we may go out and inspect it. If we don't go out and inspect it, the violation gets closed based on the owner certification. There are exceptions for that, like lead violations. We physically need to go out and inspect the condition. Mold violations, we physically need to go out and inspect the conditions. And self-closing door violations as well, we physically need to go out and look at the conditions. And again, if the owner fails to certify the condition as corrected, that becomes overdue. That's when the owner would file for dismissal request application, and might tell you down the road and says, look, I have an inspection pending with HPD. They're going to be coming out this day to inspect, and violations in your apartment. Those violations are pretty much because the owner agent failed to certify those violations on time. So now they have to pay a fee to get those inspected. So if you ever have an owner and agent tell you, I have an inspector coming to look at some violations on your property, you can always go to HPD online to see what those violations are, right? And you should allow access to the inspector on that date if you can, or work it out with the owner and agent to have the inspector come at a different date. It's important because remember, every time an inspector enters your apartment, he's going to do that 10-point safety inspection as well. So it's important to let us in, to do the inspection. Next slide, please. Again, this is for more resources. You can go to our website. It's nyc.gov/HPD. ABCs of housing we update every year. Got some really good information on that. Next slide, please. I think it's the last slide. Yes, it is.
Okay.
Great.
All right. Thank you so much, Jose, for that presentation. We have got, a few questions that came in while you were presenting. You can click on the Q&A. I don't know if you have it open yet. But
okay, let me look at that now.
Okay. So the first question we got is, what happens if a tenant is not home during the scheduled inspection due to an emergency?
Okay, that's great. That's a great question. So the inspector will leave what we call as an F22C card, giving you instructions on who to call to schedule an appointment. And we leave that complaint open for 10 days for you to call and schedule. Also, when the supervisor approves that inspection result of no access with the F22C, a letter is going to get mailed to you as well, telling you we attempted an inspection. If you want to schedule it, call this number, and then we'll go out on the date that you choose.
Okay. What qualifications or training do HPD inspectors have?
Most inspectors have a construction background. Every inspector goes through a training here at Gold Street, then they go through field training as well, which consists anywhere from EPA certification for lead testing. They do mold training, vermin training, and they do training, throughout the year.
Okay. The next question is, are there differences in inspection criteria for rent stabilized or public housing units?
So no, they're not. Everyone gets, if you make a complaint, we're going to go out and inspect everything. I'm not sure if public housing means NYCHA, because NYCHA is a separate entity that they inspect their own units. The only NYCHA inspections we do, if it's a court order NYCHA inspection, we'll conduct those inspections. But if a tenant that's in NYCHA makes a complaint, it doesn't get routed to HPD, it gets routed to NYCHA for them to go out, scope, and look at the work.
Okay, got it. Are there differences in, oh, I just read that one, sorry. The next question is in Spanish. So I'm gonna have our interpreter, Daniel, read that one for us.
Yeah, best thing to do is call 311 immediately. They're going to refer that over to the Attorney General's office, where they will do a full investigation on that. So if you feel that way, please call 311, let them know that that's how you feel. Give them your address, the date of the inspection. Our inspectors sign. We have something in the public area It's a yellow card. It's an IV1C card. We call it. The inspector would sign that. Is supposed to sign that on every inspection when he enters the apartment. So you can get the inspector's information from that IV1C card. You might get the inspector's initials. You're going to get his badge number. So with that information, you're going to call 311 and give that to the IG's office so they can do an investigation. Okay.
Okay, thank you. What happens if the landlord does not complete repairs on a certain date? What consequences will they face?
That's a good question. It all depends on the class of the violation. Again, if the A and B class violation, HPD does not take any immediate action on repairs, the tenants would have to start a court case on the tenant. Now, if it's a C class violation, ERP will get involved and start the process of making the repairs. But when the owner's ready, to make this, when the owner does correct the conditions and wants an inspection, he would have to pay a fee for us to go out and inspect.
And is it true that they're fined, right, if they don't complete it by the certification?
Again, that's going to be through the litigation. That's when the tenant takes him to court. Yeah, they will get fined per violation.
The next question: how can I get a violation for mice if when the inspector came, the mice were not visible? I have mice in my apartment.
Yeah, so we just only look for visible mice. We look for evidence of mice, which could be mice droppings. And also, if you see mice or rats in the public area, you could also advise the inspector to go to the garbage area to do an inspection in that area. But you should direct them. You should direct the inspector where you see the mice at, or where the mice were that, in the kitchen area, living room area. So they're going to look and they're going to see if they have any evidence of mice. Mice droppings, we would issue a violation for, okay?
And also, because we had someone call our office about hearing, they claim it was rats in the walls and ceiling. They hear them actually running around.
Yeah.
Is that a way? How do they report that though? If they hear it in
so again, calling 311, we'll go out and inspect that as well. And again, the rats are a little easier to find because their evidence is a lot bigger. They have oil marks. They're going to leave rub marks when they're running alongside the wall. They're going to leave bigger holes that you can see visibly when you're walking down the street. You see holes on coming out the dirt, and also I think earlier somebody mentioned about holes in the facade of the building. Those are rats entering. So the rats are a little easier to verify than mice. Mice, we're looking basically for droppings and small little dime-sized holes, which is they'll squeeze in through that amount. So sometimes it's hard for us to see.
How soon are inspection results made available to tenants and landlords?
So on our website, it gets updated every day at midnight. So if we inspect today, issue violations today, and it gets approved today, right? It's approval process. So once it's approved by the supervisor, it gets uploaded the very next day. So usually within 24 to 48 hours is a good estimate.
That's good to know. How does I'll just put that one. Oh, no. How does HPD prioritize which buildings are inspected?
Great question. So our inspectors use a application. It's a mobile application that they use, and each problem has a priority. So basically, depending on the priority of the problem, the inspector would get routed to that complaint. A priority like no water to building, it's a major problem. No water, no electric to building, it's a major problem. Heat is a major problem. So we route our inspectors based on the severity of the problem. And what's good about the program, let me say, it's that let's say you have a building that has 15 minor problems, right? Like a doorbell messed up, minor problems that might not get the priority, like a collapsing ceiling, no water supply, no electric supply. Once we get one dire problem for that building, the inspector goes with all the complaints for that building. So he's gonna go inspect not just that dire problem, but he's also gonna inspect all those other non-emergency complaints that come in for that building.
What role does the inspection process play in a rent reduction?
That's a good question. So we don't play a role on the rent reduction application, but our violations do play a role in a rent reduction. So if you give me 1 second, let me see if I can get out of here real quick. I don't know how I'm gonna do this.
And we are in the Q&A, so if you do have a question, please place it in the box. And I see one person has their hand raised. I will get to you in a moment.
So some of our violations are rent impairing violations, and those are the violations you will put on the application to get a rent reduction. I'm not sure how that works, but there's a list of violations. If you go to our website and put rent impairing violation, you're going to see a list of violations that consists of possible rent reduction until those conditions are corrected. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay, where can I get a certified listing of all the violations in my building closed and open in the Bronx?
Great. So you got to go to the Bronx Code Enforcement Office, and that office is you got to go in person. Let me just give you as an that's 1932 Arthur Avenue. That's the 3rd floor, and they open to the public Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. You can walk in, you're going to have to speak to the public interviewer, you're going to show your ID and tell them you want a certified copy of open and closed violations for your unit or for the building.
Okay, how many times can an elevator be inspected and date posted?
Elevators is Department of Buildings. We don't inspect for elevators. We're very limited to elevators. We issue, I think, 2 violations for elevators, which is the no lighting, and also there's a mirror that should be in the elevator. Those are only 2 violations under the HMC and MDL that we could issue. So any violation, any complaint that comes in for elevator is going to go to Department of Buildings. Okay, we wouldn't get those.
Okay, so the Department of Buildings for elevators. When can I get a certified registry of my building? There are 7 units and a landlord constructed another apartment and never registered that additional apartment in the registry.
Again, you could go to, depending on where you're at, you can go to the borough office, the code enforcement office. If you go to our website office, if you go to the website and just search borough service, borough code offices, is going to give you a list of all borough offices. Those offices are open to the public Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. They should be able to help you there.
Mm-hmm. Next question. How many years, I guess, should a painting be conducted in the apartment?
I believe it's every 2 years, but it depends on the condition. Some units you can go in and you think that the unit was just painted. So I guess it depends on the paint they use, right? And then you should tell the inspector that it hasn't been painted for 2 years, and the inspector would issue a violation for them to paint the entire apartment. Just keep in mind, we do issue those violations, and the tenants get upset because the owners or landlords or super ask them to move stuff out of the apartment, move stuff out of the rooms, and they don't want to help them. So once we issue that, it's called the 556 to paint, the owner will have to paint the entire apartment, walls and ceiling. Okay. But if you make it's every 2 years. If you make a complaint, it's a 311. We'll go out and inspect that as well. That will be a non-emergency complaint, so we'll go out and inspect that as well.
Hello. Besides mice and roach inspections, are there flies and insects inspections?
I believe 311 date does take those types of complaints, and we'll go out and look at that as well. So we'll issue a violation for vermin, and then we'll type the type of vermin that the inspector found at the time.
Okay. I'm gonna go to the person that has their hand raised. Um, just make sure your question is on topic, please, and it's short because we have more questions to answer. So just be cognizant of that. Thank you. So Natalie, I'm gonna allow you to talk. Um,
Oh, thank you. I'm just adding because I do a lot of rent reductions. I'm a paralegal. You can use HPD violations to uplift. So if the landlord tries to claim to remove the rent reduction, or if you're filing a new rent reduction, you could use any HPD violation in your unit or for building wide rent reductions
Right.
um, to help with that rent reduction. It does not need to be a RIV violation, a rent impairing violation. It's any will qualify for rent reduction in a rent stabilized apartment with DHCR. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan.
appreciate that. Mm, Okay. Thank you, Natalie. The next question is, the last time my landlord made an appointment with HPD for an inspector to come to my apartment, it was very inconvenient for me, and I wanted to make arrangements for another date and was told I could not change it. So if this happens again, where does one call?
That's a tough one. You got to work with so for when the owner applies for dismissal request, we give them 2 dates, and they should be providing you with those 2 dates to see which one works for you. We give them a first visit, and then if we don't gain access to your unit on that first visit, we'll go out 7 days later to attempt another inspection. Okay, so the landlord is paying for 2 inspection attempts. The first visit, we go out, we knock on every door on that reinspection attempt. If the tenant is not home, we'll come back 7 days later.
Okay. Is it true that if more tenants call 311, it alerts HPD quicker?
No, that's not true. We get the complaints as soon as 311 releases to us. And again, depending on the problem type, we'll go out and inspect as quick as we can. So no, that wouldn't help.
Okay. Next question. Why, when an inspector notes a violation, can they not write it down, but has to have a supervisor that is not present to approve of the violation?
Yeah, so the inspector would issue the violation, but we still need the supervisor to review the violation to make sure it's an adequate violation for the building. And it's just a process. It's the inspector issues it. With the application that we're using now, it usually gets approved the very next day or the same day.
Okay. Next question. There's a lot of furniture and garbage and other stuff accumulated on the side of my building. The elevator is always dirty and the entrance to the building is dirty and the paint is peeling. What can be done?
I'm not sure if you called and made these complaints, but you should make these complaints to 311. We'll go out and inspect, or check the 311 website to see if these violations already have been issued.
Next question is, what is the requirement for a live-in super imported in a 160 unit building?
Yeah, so he needs to live in the building 100 feet away from it. So if you have a 160 unit building, you don't have a live-in super, a super that lives within 100 feet from the building, uh, you should make a complaint about that, and we'll go out and look at that.
Um, we don't have any more questions as of yet. I do have one person with their hand raised. We do have some more time. So I will allow Suzanne to speak. Suzanne Jacoby. Maybe she was a mistake. Okay. Um, All right, so I don't see any more questions as of yet, but if one does pop up while I'm doing my my outro, I will answer it or ask it. So I want to thank, of course, Jose for joining us tonight and presenting and answering your questions. We truly appreciate you, Jose, and your time tonight. Do you have any last words for our attendees? Anything you want them to take away?
Yeah, you should always report the issues to your landlord or to the super. If it's not corrected, call 311. And we'll come out and inspect and issue the appropriate violation. You can have a record of it.
And I wanted to put something in the chat. You mentioned about like obtaining violation reports for like buildings. Can you give me that address one more time? Like where should they go?
Is that for Arthur Avenue? Is that for the Bronx?
The Bronx, yeah.
So for the Bronx, it's going to be 1932 Arthur Avenue, and that's the 3rd floor. I can give you the other boroughs if you need as well.
Yeah, King. So that one's for the Bronx.
Yeah. Then Brooklyn, our code enforcement office is at 701 Euclid Avenue.
701. Can you spell Euclid?
Sure. 701 Euclid is EUCLID Avenue. Then we also have our Manhattan Code Enforcement Office is at 94 Old Broadway, and that's in the 7th floor. Then we have our Queens Code Office. That one is located at 120-55 Queens Boulevard.
Wait, give me one more time. 120.
120-55 Queens Boulevard. That's in the courthouse. Then we also have a Staten Island office. You have anyone in Staten Island, which is 10 Richmond Terrace.
10 Richmond Terrace.
Yes.
Give me a second. Okay, so I'll put all those addresses
Right.
for everyone. And that's where you could get your open and close violation reports for buildings, correct?
Correct.
Um,
Well, open, you could get on our website. If you want to just see open, you can go on our website and see the open. If you want to get a certified copies, we'll go to the website of open. The close, you would also have to go to the borough.